Good morning and welcome to another episode of the 10,000 Club. It is still January and it looks like winter outside again today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, Cindy. Today we're going to be talking about five-star company forms, and that's really like pretty much everything. We've been kind of doing some coffee hours, popping around the state a little bit, talking about five-star company forms. But today we wanted to go in depth a little bit more with them so we can highlight some things that we don't want you to miss.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And Kim, I think, is our master today. She's going to take over our screen for us.
Yep.
Go for it, Kim.
I am going to try to do that. So these forms are they're really important, and they aren't part of our board forms, the ones that we're going to talk about today. So these are some extras that we just want to do an overview of and explain to you why they're there and how they can help you to be a better pro in your business. And I think if I can get us to share here, we will share my screen. I'm getting it. All right. Do you see my dot loop?
We see it.
Okay, got it. All right. So, Tracy, you want to lead with this one? Oops, sorry. Oh, don't do that. See? Don't do a dot loop. Okay, I'm with you. All right, so the first one is the five-star closing file checklist. Most of us are familiar with this one.
Yes, absolutely. The unique thing about this form is this is your way to communicate everything you need to know to the office about your transaction. And the sooner you do it, the better. So as soon as you get your buyer under contract, your seller under contract, you should be filling out this form, getting as much information into it as you can, so that when the branch administrators come in behind us, if you're missing something, this is another one of those opportunities where you have plenty of time to get it corrected long before you close. But this is an absolute must form. It should be in every single one of your transactions. I make a folder inside my own dot loop that says closing file checklist. That way I see it all the time. I don't forget about it. It's there.
Yep.
It's nice too that the fact that you can, if you're working with Star Title, and I love this part, is you can go ahead and check the box under title to order title, but also you can check the box to work with your clients directly. I love that feature.
Yes.
Because then my clients and everything, they're all in sync with Star Title, and with all the information in that.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're doing a transaction and you are on the seller side and you need to get that mortgage authorization payoff, all that stuff happens in the background, and they can communicate directly with Star Title. That information is transferred securely, and it sort of takes you out of that step.
Yep.
Yeah, I really like that. The less I have to do that is automated, and me being in the middle of it, the better, right? And Star Title, when they pull the commitments for me, they also drop those directly in my loop, which is really nice. So I pre-set up an envelope or a folder that says Star Title. They drop that in there. And then there's also this provide my client with a free quote for insurance. So everything is set there for you. And once you check that box, then our provider will reach out to them. And so it's really a one-stop shop. It's a nice summary. I don't believe you'll be able to submit your loop without a closing file checklist. Is that still the rule, Tracy?
Yeah, I believe it is. It is an integral piece of your closing.
Yeah. And really important here is the broker to broker referral. If you have a referral to another broker, you'll want to fill in their information and provide that referral in your loop, so that when accounting goes to pay out, they know where to send the money and how much, etc.
Yeah, and the commission part, very, very important, because that's how you get paid.
That's how you get paid. Yep. So pretty straightforward. A lot of us are familiar with this form, so we're going to move on to the next one. Cindy, this is the five-star compensation agreement. What is that, and when do we use it?
Yeah, you want to do that, especially if, if you're charging a broker the five-star admin fee, the $295. For example, I had a listing and was writing an offer for a client that came through that. And funny, I had called Kim and I said, okay, because I know they're going to pay a $295 broker compensation fee. And Kim goes, well, that's right on the compensation agreement. So easy peasy. But you also want to use it to get paid. If you're going to have a seller commission or you're representing a buyer, you want to make sure that you have that filled out. So you know that you're getting paid, and with a for sale by owner, very, very important.
Yeah, that's the time I see that I use this form the most, is when I'm doing a for sale by owner. In the absence of a listing contract or a buyer's agency contract, this is where the compensation agreement comes into play.
Right.
Think of it as your buyer's agency contract. You're not their buyer's agency, but there has to be something that outlines how it is that you'll get paid.
Yep.
And it discloses it to them upfront in writing, signed by all parties.
Yep.
And this will vary. So it's going to be check one or the other. So you're putting in the address. So in Cindy's case, she would have had seller because she was already representing the seller. A buyer called her from a sign call. She was writing for that buyer. So therefore there was no buyer agency agreement, but she still needs to charge that customer a $295 admin fee. So she would change it to seller, and then there wouldn't be any commission for the buyer to pay. It would have just been just the buyer $295. So all of this is universal. And so make sure you pay attention when it's a for sale by owner, then it's a buyer. And how much are they going to pay us? So in that case, this would change over to the seller is going to pay the 3%, right?
Yep.
So just depending on your situation, you can edit this form, and it's pretty universal. But this is when there is not a form for you getting paid. This is the form that you would be your go-to. You can find this in 5-star company forms.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that one?
Nope, that's a good one.
All right. So the next one, oh, I touched so many buttons at the same time. Okay. So then I'm going to let Tracy tell us about this one.
Tracy, can you say it twice?
Yeah, we were cracking up over the word reciprocity and how many different ways we can say it or how fast we could say it. But this is a reciprocity agreement. And this is basically, I want you to think about when you step outside the borders with which you sell. Maybe you live in Southeast Michigan and you're going to be selling up north in Tawas, or maybe you're going to end up in Charlevoix or Petoskey, or maybe you might pop over the bridge and want to help a friend sell something. Our licenses have no borders. We are licensed in the state of Michigan. We like to think that you should become a pro in the area that you live and work in and that you're familiar with. But sometimes I know that those will stretch outside those borders. And when we do, we want to make sure that we get paid. So we have reciprocity agreements all over the state of Michigan. So different areas in the state reciprocate with other areas. In other words, if you are an agent in Mishrick, you may not reciprocate with agents over in the Thumb area. Okay, that's a totally different board. So you don't wrap your board doesn't wrap their arms around the boards that are in that area. So if you find you're going from an area where you typically sell into an area that you're unfamiliar with, or a better test to that, Cindy noted this morning, when you log on to your MLS and you search an area, and say you were looking for a house in Tawas, Michigan, just north of the Thumb. If it doesn't show up in your MLS, that is the test right there. If it doesn't show up in your MLS, you know that your board does not reciprocate. If you're having to go out to realtor.com and find it, or Zillow to find that, or into RPR, which is the better place to find those listings, you know your board doesn't reciprocate. If that's the case, you need to grab the reciprocity agreement for your board. I think the one we're showing today is the West Michigan one, but it basically just says, hey, can you scroll back up to the top of it? It basically just says, hey, here's today's date. This is the property address I'm writing on. Here's a little information about the purchase agreement. And it basically just says, you agree, your broker agrees to pay my broker a commission of X. And you get everybody to sign that when you send it. I'd be sending this before I even showed the property.
Yes.
To make sure that they are going to, because you don't want to find out later. So ask the question on the front end, send it in, make sure that you're going to get paid, because we have stories of agents who literally find out the day or 2 days before closing when they see the closing statement that shows that the seller's agent is getting all the commission because you were not a part of that board and you did not have a reciprocity agreement signed. So protect yourself, get this form
Yes.
signed before you open the door. We, you know,
Yes.
on the broker support team, we are constantly telling agents that the relationship with the listing agent begins when you make the showing appointment. So
Yeah.
during that conversation, have this conversation. And when you do, get this filled out and sent over to that listing broker so that we know you're going to get paid.
Good.
Yeah.
And very, very important, make sure the broker signs it, not the agent.
Correct.
The co-broker, well, that wouldn't be a co-broker, but the offering is from the broker, not the agent. So we need the broker signatures.
Correct.
Very, very important form.
Yeah.
All right.
You don't want to work for free.
Don't want to work for free.
No.
Then this one is a form that we created. Most of our boards, or all of our boards, should have their own buyer agency agreement, right? And some of them are 2 pages, some are 3 pages. 5-Star created this easy out buyer agency agreement to make it just that, easy. Sometimes agents have a little difficulty explaining 3 pages. They feel like they're asking to be married before we've even dated, and they're just really not comfortable with it. But because 5-Star is a designated agent company, we need to have something filled out. And this buyer agency gives that designation to us. And the difference in this one, and we're going to look at it, is just simply that it says here in line 2 that this agreement, so it has to have a beginning date and an ending date, which we have here. And we're not going to go through all of these forms in detail, but you're welcome to reach out to us. I'm not sure if we have a video done on this yet, but they will go line by line with you and we'd be glad to review it with you. But it has an agreement date when it expires. And then right here, this agreement may be canceled without penalty at any time by either party by providing written notice to the other party. That's one important part, is the date, and then that they can cancel at any time, and the $295 admin fee is on here. So this is a buyer agency. It designates you as their agent, but it also covers what we need regarding being a designated brokerage.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other comments?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say about is what I like about number 2 is it basically says, if you don't like working with me, this is cancelable. If I'm uncomfortable working with you, it's cancelable. There is no penalty and you can get out. In other words, I'm not going to hold a gun to your head. I don't want to work with people that don't want to work with me.
Right.
Exactly. This is easy to follow too. I think it's like ours is a 3-page, and this really sums it up.
Right. And for most of us, we have the relationship, so we're not really worried about them walking away a lot of times. And if they did walk away, are we really going to pursue them? Now, there's different situations where I've written 10 offers, showed you, 25 homes. We might want a little stronger buyer agency agreement. But typically, for me personally, when I start working with the buyer, I explain they're committed to me, I'm committed to them. And how do you say it, Tracy? It outlines the way this relationship's going to work. You always say that so nicely about buyer agency.
It's funny, I can't think of exactly how I say it, but I always just say it outlines the terms of our agreement. It outlines my fiduciary responsibilities to you as the buyer. It's my loyalty, my trust. It frames it very nicely.
Yep. And how we're going to work together. So just know this too is in 5-Star company forms. It's very easy to fill out, very easy to understand. It covers designation. So if your buyer walks into an open house and the agent that is hosting says, "Oh, are you working with an agent?" and your buyer says yes, and they go, "Have you signed anything?" The answer is yes. I like buyer agencies because it protects me often from the other agent that will push to see if you signed an agreement with somebody else.
Yep.
So, all right, that's a great form to have. And then we have this one. I don't know that our agent community is as aware of this one, It's called pre-offer disclosures and contingencies. And this one was created maybe a year or two ago when all of what I call some of the madness that started to happen, and we started writing in all these escalation clauses and appraisal gaps and waiving commissions, or not commissions, excuse me, waiving inspections. And so this one has a lot of things that are covered in the purchase agreement, but it's basically a, hey, you understand you're making this decision. And so we're not going to go through it line by line, but we are going to highlight some of the things in here today, and it will just cover you. So say you have a buyer and they really, really want to win. And so they waive all their inspections, they close. After the closing, there's a water issue or an inspection issue, and they come back and they say, well, I never understood what I was doing. So this form helps them to understand. And the other thing about it is it's also, especially more so if you're a new agent, it's a pre-conversation to writing the offer. So a lot or most of the information you need when you go to write this offer, you've already had this conversation with your buyer and before you get to writing the offer.
Yeah, and I would say too, there's just so much emotion, especially in that time of madness, as you've described. There was so much emotion in all of that, and people wanted to win. And so it was a way to step back. Yes, you signed it and checked the boxes over here in the purchase agreement. But when we've done it a second time, and we've literally had you check the box and initial each one of these areas, it was a second opportunity for us to say, if you missed it, or if you didn't understand the way I described it to you verbally, the way it was written in the purchase agreement, here's another opportunity. So really just a double check system for really covering your rear to make sure you've done a good job explaining. Maybe you're a new agent, maybe you're a seasoned agent and you're working with an impulsive client, because that happens too, where it's like, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. But I don't care isn't signed in writing anywhere, right?
Exactly.
This absolutely is.
Yeah, this is like a summary of the offer. And again, it like Tracy said, it's nice because you can go line by line. And in this day and age, you want to make sure that you're explaining those contingencies and if there was an appraisal gap and all that. So it makes it a little clearer for everybody.
I'm just going to highlight what the things that it will cover. And this earnest money one, I like that's on here because especially if it's a first time home buyer, they're like, what's an earnest money? Like, oh, I have to give you some money right now. So this opens that conversation and is a teaching moment to help them, your buyers, understand prior to writing the contract. So it goes through earnest money, seller concessions. You understand. I want to ask my buyers, do you need seller concessions? And they might go, well, what does that mean? And so, and how much do we need? So this is an opportunity to find out from them or their lender. Are we asking for seller concessions and what are those amounts? And as Tracy mentioned, everyone initials here. So it's very clear you understand this contract. So many times contracts get sent over. And I personally, when I send a contract, I put it in view only to my clients. And I write, hey, I'll see you at 4. We'll talk at 4 when we're going to review this. When everybody understands, then I resend it for signatures. I want to make sure that we're having the conversation that they understand what they're signing. This is another one. Once again, the obligation of the buyer that you will make formal loan application within X amount of days once we get accepted. Very important here, inspection contingencies. Very, very important, especially when waiving. Like we're advising you to have as many as inspections as possible. And if you're waiving it, we're going to have you initial here and say you understand what right you're giving up at this point. And just interrupt if either of you have anything to say about either of these. I'm just going to hit them really quick. Any thoughts on those so far?
Oh, it's good.
Okay. Survey, my answer is always yes. Should I get a survey? My answer is yes. It's always yes. Even if it's in a platted neighborhood, quick war story, sold a house to a client, 400-some thousand, brand new plat that was developed. Everything was approved by the city, closed on it. A year later, they call me and say, the city has told me I have to move my shed. I'm on someone else's property. So the answer is always, yes, you should get one, even if they don't.
You're right, exactly. You've given them the opportunity. At the end of the day,
opportunity.
they can decide that they don't want to.
Yep.
Right, yep. And then it goes through boundaries, then title work review, very important. I'm gonna send you this title work that they're not going to understand, but hey, well, let's get on the phone or on a Zoom and let me just explain to you what this means. Review that. There's home warranties available. Sometimes the worst call I've had is when my client calls me up and says, oh, my furnace just broke down. And I was talking to my friends Susie and Rob, and when they bought their house, they got a home warranty. Do I have one?
Yeah.
Right? Call you don't want to have. So that's always just let them know it's there, it's available. Chattel agreement, that's personal appliances, especially when buying things, when writing in personal property beyond your normal stove, refrigerator, washer, dryer. This, I would use a chattel agreement for lawn furniture if you're buying a vacation home or beds or mattresses or whatever.
Right. And also the lender does not want to see those things in a purchase agreement.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to want to determine what the value is of the 4 bar stools.
Yeah. Or an
and then
appraiser.
the purchase price. I mean, it's, yeah, so keep personal property separate from the purchase agreement.
Yep. And then condo bylaws. I just did a live stream on this last week. If you'd like the notes, I'm happy to share, but condos and bylaws have their own set of rules, their own set of documents. We want to make sure that we see those documents prior and have an opportunity to review them prior to closing. So this is talking about condos and bylaws. And
Which
then
is very important. I just had, in fact, I wrote on my purchase agreement that the buyer has already reviewed and approved the condo bylaws. And again, this is a reminder that will help you because you when you're dealing with a condo, you absolutely want to make sure they've reviewed those.
Okay. And then leases, and then possession is very important. Two big ones here, possession and appraisal gap. So possession, do you understand what rights you are giving? Are you giving possession at closing? Are you letting somebody stay in your home for 2 weeks afterwards? So you understand the ins and outs of that possession contingency. Then, of course, the big one, I don't know that we'll see so much this year with the market balancing out, but appraisal gap, very, very important to understand what that means. We get a lot of calls about appraisal gaps. And so this here is a time to explain that to your buyer. Make sure everybody understands if I bring an extra $10,000 or $20,000 to the table, that means my house may not appraise at that higher number, and what all that means to have that gap guarantee. And then this is your hold harmless for 5-star real estate employees, agents. And then walkthrough. Will your buyer be asking to do a walkthrough prior to closing? Some contracts have this built in, like G-Car does, but many of the other ones do not have this built in for the walkthrough. So that's just a quick overview. Any thoughts on any of these contingencies?
I would just say, we definitely recommend you use these on every single transaction. If you are a newer agent, you should absolutely be using this pre-offer disclosure, even though there are going to be elements in it today, like the appraisal gap guarantee that you were talking about, Kim. It's still, these are opportunities for you to learn and to grow. You'll learn a lot as you have to move through these things and explain them to your clients. But there's great value in using this and protection for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I use that document on every transaction. And then, we going to go into any of these other ones, or is that good for today? Do we want to? This is the broker sign forms, just to remind the agents.
Let's at least do that one right there. I think that'd be great.
Okay.
Or it was I think that one was the addendum is the one that has the broker signature on it.
The broker signature.
Yeah.
Okay.
The biggest thing we want to highlight is that there are lots of forms in .loop that are pre-signed by the broker. So when you're, last minute, you're looking to have something signed and it's Saturday night at 10 p.m. and you're like, I need to get this signed. This is a West Michigan one. You can see it's pre-signed. So look through your board forms, check for that pre-signed document. I know you've heard us say that we're in the midst of revamping all of .loop. All of our folders are going to change, the organization of them. There'll be a tab that shows, hey, if you're working with a buyer, here's all the documents that you need. And there'll be a really nice roadmap. Included in those will be these forms, but just to help you, the ease of getting a transaction completed in an odd time of day when the office might be closed, you can't get a hold of anyone, know that these forms are available and signed by the broker or your designated realtor for the area that you do business in, like Kim down in Kalamazoo. She's the DR for that area. So,
yeah, so just a little helpful tip there. And let me stop sharing here. So all good forms, important forms. Often we get in a habit of using what we normally use, and we might not be aware that 5 Star has created some other forms that will help protect you and your clients along the way. So all really, really good information today. So
yeah,
any
excellent.
final comments from anybody?
Yeah. I think those are great. I would encourage all of you to dive into the 5 Star Company Forms folder. Spend time out in our education website. We have walkthroughs, document walkthroughs by associations. So if you're unfamiliar with some of these things and you're just learning the business, maybe you would like to get some great language. Those walkthroughs give you the language to help you become a pro.
Yeah.
And yeah, so tune back in. Next month, we're going to be spending some time. We're going to be highlighting some of our agents at our company and just interacting with them, learning about their business, what they're doing, how they're becoming a pro, maybe how their businesses changed directions and what did that look like? What did they do different? And find ways to share that energy with one another.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be amazing. I always love to hear what agents are doing, and I love the stories when something changes for the better and we see their businesses up, and especially when the news is saying it shouldn't be up. We love those stories. So we want to encourage our agents with those. So watch for those advertisements of what dates those are going to be on. So, all right. Well, yeah. Well, it's good to see everyone. I hope everyone has a great day, and we will see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.
See ya.